just too comfortable in here. And it's actually super peaceful, and don't worry because the car will basically drive itself. This is the new Lexus Texas, also known as the TX 500H. Oh my god, a bump. Oops, a little bit of tea. Regardless of my wet pants, that makes it look like I had a little accident. Let's go over how this TX might just be the right luxury 3-row SUV for you. Alright, we got 366 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque from a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged hybrid engine in the 500F Sport Performance model. We can come to a complete stop here, put it into sport mode real quick, and do a quick launch. A little bit of wheel spin. It actually sounds really good. You can get to 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 6.1 seconds, which is quite impressive for a 7-seater SUV. This is basically the 3-row version of the Lexus RX 500H, and it's made to compete with vehicles like the Audi Q7 or the Volvo XC90 or even like a Tahoe or Yukon. There is a 350 model version to this instead of the 500H, and that is just a non-hybrid version, which does make a little bit less horsepower, but still more than enough for most people. There also is a 550 plus version, which is a plug-in hybrid version, which you can charge and go a little bit of all-electric range before you utilize that gas motor. This F Sport Performance model does have the F Sport suspensions and the steering, and it is in sport mode right now, which does make it quite a bit more rough. If you go into your normal driving mode, it does soften it up quite a bit more because these are adaptive and they work with your drive modes. You do have your Eco, your normal, and your sport mode, and of course a custom mode, which you can configure the steering, suspension, and the engine, and your climate control. You do have your front and rear performance rods on this F Sport model. The rear suspension is a double wishbone setup, while the front is McPherson struts. You do also have that direct 4 all-wheel drive, which means the back is solely powered by the electric motor and has no mechanical linkage between the front and the rear. So the front wheels gets one electric motor and the engine to assist with that, but the rear is just the motor. A little bit of understeer, but this thing is actually quick. Unlike a lot of other hybrid vehicles with the CVT transmission, this does get a regular 6-speed auto, which is actually quite refreshing to see, so you don't get that rubbery brand feeling. It accelerates pretty quickly, there isn't really much latency to it. And let's throw it in sport mode again. Downshifts. Downshifts are actually not that bad. Upshifts. Okay. In sport mode, it does get a little bit louder. It is artificial engine noise, which you can turn off in the settings. But right now, it is on the highest level. It actually sounds pretty cool. Downshift. In sport mode, you also get this cool RPM layout where it's a horizontal bar up top. And let's try this quarter. Yeah, you can definitely tell it's a little bit more front-wheel drive bias because it is basically, if you go into your all-wheel drive menu, you will notice that oftentimes it will just put the power into the front wheels. So obviously it will feel a little bit like a front-wheel drive, especially through the corners. You do get your rear wheel steering, which will turn the rear wheels when you're making turns. So maneuvering this vehicle in a tight parking lot or just trying to do a U-turn or a 3-point turn is actually really easy in this car, even though it's so big. And again, this is a hybrid, so when you're driving normally and you're not too heavy on the gas or you're just coasting, you will notice that it will go into EV mode. There is a little light that pops up on the dashboard to let you know, because you really won't feel the difference between the engine and the motor is working. And once you're on the gas a little bit, the engine will kick on, but it remains super quiet in here. The ride is just so refined. It kind of floats over every bump, and you do get double pane glass in here, which just makes the interior that much more refined. But because of that floaty suspension setup, it does sacrifice some handling, but again, it still remains rather planted. You can stiffen up the suspension, just throw it back into sport mode. Around this corner, brakes feel good. Steering is a little bit on the lighter side of things, but it handles pretty well. We are on a little bit of a rougher road right now, but it just feels like nothing. You just float over them. Super comfortable. It doesn't handle like a BMW X5 would, but it's definitely a lot more comfortable. You also get your Lexus Safety Systems 3.0 Plus, which comes with your adaptive cruise control with lane tracing. That system works really well. You just turn it on here, and yeah, it just keeps you centered in the lane. If you do look away from the road for more than a few seconds, it will tell you that you are not paying attention, and it'll start yelling at you pretty quickly. You do, of course, get your blind spot monitors, your front and rear cross traffic alert, you got your lane departure warning, your forward collision warning, and pretty much all the safety tech that you can think of. And you also have your proactive driving assist, which will slow down if there's a vehicle in front of you without you being in adaptive cruise control mode. It will just kind of gently brake when you're approaching vehicles too quickly, which does make it a little bit safe, but it does become a little bit intrusive at times. You do also get your traffic sign recognition system, which will display your speed limits or stop signs or any signs that will pick up on the road on your dashboard and in your heads-up display. You do get traffic jam assistance, which means you can take your hands off the wheel when you're going at a low speed. It is a subscription service. There are a bunch of subscription service that you will have to pay for in this vehicle though. Why a lot of people are considering this car is because of its fuel economy. It does a combined 27 miles per gallon or 8.6 liters if you're anywhere not in the US. That's extremely good for a vehicle this size. For our 70 miles per hour fuel economy test, it averaged about 26 miles per gallon, which is about right on the money in terms of the highway mileage. All right, let's check out the exterior. All right, we just got this washed like half an hour ago, but we had to do a little bit of off-roading because a drone decided to fly itself into a pond in the middle of the forest. So my shoes look like this, and there's a little bit of mud on the car. But this is a four-wheel drive, and it can handle a little bit of off-roading, so that's pretty good. Although it's not a GX, it is still more than capable. Up front, we do have a different bumper on this F Sport model. The 350 will have a slightly different appearance up here. You do have this huge grille design, but it is kind of like closed off, which is probably because it's a hybrid. We do have full LED headlights and turn signals. They're really nice. You get auto high beams in them. You got your radar sensor here. You got your 360 camera up there. Parking sensors throughout the bumper. As we come to the side, you do have these massive 22-inch wheels. They do look really cool. I love the gray finish to them and the black calipers. This color is Incognito gray, black mirror caps, a little bit of mud on them. F Sport badge coming along the side. You do have your gloss black roof rails, and along to the side, you have this very squared off finish in the back. It does look really good. You could confuse it for something like the GX or the Sequoia. I think a lot of new SUVs are going for the squared off look. It does look really good. You have this LED strip that runs right across the back, kind of like a Porsche, and it does look great. You got your Lexus in text instead of the logo in the back. You have your camera for the mirror up here, which does get cleaned by the wiper. Your backup camera, which also has a nozzle spray. You have this paint match diffuser. I think it would look a little bit more aggressive if it was black, but it still looks really good. I think the back of a TX is where it looks the best. Although it does share some similarities with the Grand Highlander in terms of the powertrain, inside the TX is completely different. It is super premium in here. You got your aluminum finish trim that goes across, you got your suede inside, you got your suede on the seats, and then you have leather that is perforated on the seats. These seats are super comfortable. They do look really good too. They hold you in place really well, and it's a great seating position. But I will complain about the fact that there is no up-down lumbar control. It's only in and out, and there's no option for massage seats if I'm nitpicking. But other than that, this interior is great. You got leather throughout the entire door. You didn't have your stitching. You got your white and your black. It does look great. You have your 21 Mark Levinson surround sound speaker system. You have your massive 14-inch display in the middle. Of course, it's pretty much the same display that you'll find on any Lexus and Toyota vehicle now. It is a good system. You do have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And speaking of wireless, you do have your wireless charger here. You got 3 USB-C ports in the front And this does open to a little cubby where you can hide stuff in here, which is nice. And what's really cool is that you do have these modular cup holders, which you can press and release them in case they get dirty. Pretty much all the cup holders in the car does that, and it's cool. Key is pretty much the same key that you find in pretty much any Lexus. You can press this 3 times to remote start. You can also get the connected Lexus app where you can remote start and park the car with your phone. You got your shifter over here. It's the typical Lexus shifter, and then you got your brake hold, your terrain mode, your parking brake, and your traction control button. In the center, you do have a 12.3-inch digital cluster. It is one of my favorite clusters. It's super easy to read. It doesn't get washed out by the sun, and there are so many different layouts that you can choose from. You can go to vehicle customization, meter, and these are all the meter types that you can shuffle through. And then you can change what's in the left, the middle, and the right. There are so many different things that you can go through, like your EV ratio, your boost gauge, your G meter, your battery, your fuel economy. Then you have the map in the middle, which is pretty cool. It's not the most useful map, but it does look cool here. And then the heads-up display is what you're going to be looking at the most, because these controls here on the left and right, you can view what's happening on the heads-up display. You can even have different custom buttons. Like I have my sport mode as this button, and eco mode, and then display shuffle. When you press this, it goes into the cruise control menu. On the left side, that's usually the audio menu, but then if you press this, you can control what buttons are here. You can set it up in here. I have the climate control, so if I want to turn up temperature, I can just do this just by looking at the heads-up display and not even taking my hands off the wheel. You do, of course, have your 360 camera. You do have the egg mode, but if you put it in drive, which you can start the vehicle for that, then you have great camera in reverse. That is a really nice feature. And of course, you do have your automatic parking system, which you don't have to press in advance. You can just come to a complete stop and then use it. It's one of the best systems out there. You do have your climate control unit over here. It's pretty much all on the screen except the knobs are physical, so that's nice. This pretty much stays here at all times. You got your automatic heated and ventilated seats and your heated steering wheel, which does heat the entire wheel. You do have your shortcut menu over here, which you do have your drive mode selector in here because you don't have an actual button or knob for it, which is why I leave the shortcuts in here because it's a bit easier to access. You have your driver's assistance buttons in here. And then when you go through the menus, you have so many different things that you can customize with the car. You even have ambient lighting, which you have a bunch of different themes that you can choose from, including a custom mode where you can customize the exact color that you want in the interior. And you do have the digital mirror up here, which is quite useful, especially if you have stuff in the back. And then you can also just switch it to conventional mirror mode if you want it. You do have a massive panoramic sunroof. That is a nice feature. And then the door, pretty much on most Lexus now, is a digital button, which you can just press to exit. And in an emergency, you can pull on it twice to release it. This is one of the coolest things in a Lexus. You do have safety exit assist, which if there's a car approaching or a bike approaching, it will warn you on the dashboard and notify you and prevent you from opening the door on oncoming traffic, which is pretty safe. In the back, these doors open quite wide. They're not exactly 90 degrees, but it is a great entry point. It's actually rather low, especially for how big this vehicle is, so it makes getting in and out easy. You have your sunshade visors over here, and stepping on in into the second row, there's plenty of space. Ooh, I can see the ambient lighting in the cup holder. You have the same digital latch back. You can recline the seats a little bit, which is nice, and then you can of course slide them back and forth to give the third row more space. Again, the same modular cup holders back here. Yeah, a little bit of space. You can even put a tablet in here, and then you do have heated and ventilated seats back here, your own climate control, 2 USB-C ports, and an AC 120 volt outlet. That is pretty nice. Just plenty of space in the back. These are kind of like theater seats where it is a little bit higher than the front seats, so you can still see out the windshield when you're sitting in the back, which makes you feel a little bit less claustrophobic. Hopping into the third row, you can just press the button, the seat will move forward, and you can just go right on back. Once you're in the third row and you have the second row seats the way they were before, there's actually a ton of space back here. Again, these seats are a little bit higher than these seats, so you are a bit more elevated. These windows are huge, so you can still kind of see and have a view when you're sitting back here. Plenty of legroom. You actually have a good amount of foot space where you can still move your feet around. The materials back here are pretty much the same as what they are on the front, so it's good to see that they didn't cheap out. A little bit tight on headroom. If you're over 6 foot tall, you're probably not going to have a good time back here. You do have your USB-C port here, and you do have reclining seats that are powered, and they actually recline quite a bit, so it's actually pretty nice up here. Again, you have 7 USB-C ports in this car, which is more than one for every passenger. You can get this configured either in a 6 or a 7 seating configuration, but in the hybrid, you can only get it in 6. You do have your hands-free tailgate, which opens up to 20.2 cubic feet of space behind the third row alone. Everything really is bigger in Texas. You can fold these seats down, so you can fold this one and this one. This will now give you 55 cubic feet of space. Behind the third row alone, you can actually fit 7 carry-on luggages. And underneath here, you do have a space-saving spare tire. You do have a light here as well, and a light here and a light here, which would illuminate trunk pretty well at night. What is interesting is if you do play music and you're standing here, there are some speakers above you, so you actually get like a surround sound speaker experience when you're just in the trunk. You can of course fold the second row seats down, and that would give you about 95 cubic feet of space. Oh, that's not how you fold them. There you go. So once you fold these down, we'll have about 95 cubic feet of space. Also, it is worth noting that there are buttons in the back here where you can raise and fold the seats again if you want to do it from here. You can also do it on the infotainment screen from the front. It's a very nice SUV. It's the ultimate 3-row SUV. It's something I'd actually consider if I needed the extra space. I like it quite a bit more than the RX, especially how it looks. But here in Canada, it is priced at about $92,000 for this particular model we're driving, which is quite steep. I think for me, I'd consider the TX350, the non-hybrid version, and just get like a tech package on top of it, where that car just starts at 72,000 Canadian or about $55,000 USD in America. And that's a much more reasonable price than this fully spec'd out $92,000 500H. You do get that extra power here, but to be honest, I don't think anyone is racing anyone or taking this to the track to actually utilize that extra power. 350 alone already has more than enough power, but you can definitely still have a lot of fun. Throw it in sport mode, and yeah, this thing is fast. This makes me quite excited about the new GX, especially with all that off-road capabilities. So stay tuned for that video. As always, thanks for watching.